Greetings everybody, Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. We are officially starting the 5th chapter in the 2nd Chronicles. This is called the Chapter 5, the Second War, and it's going to talk about Tides of Darkness, the second game, all of the events. Now, so we're in a lot better situation with this chapter, this official canon lore, than we were leading up to this. So a lot of this stuff, it's almost like it was apocryphal before now, where it's coming straight from novels, or as we got into the last game, like so much of that game was clearly, you could almost look at the game like a weird 90% fictional retelling, like a legend. So this game is a lot different than that. Very little, as I mentioned before, very little is retconned out of this game in terms of pure events and content. We are still going to have there's quite a bit of legwork on my part behind the scene, shuffling and coordinating between the Tides of Darkness novelization, the video game, this chronicle, and right now in the beginning, the little snippet of the Arthas book that we're going to have to wedge in there. The Arthas book parallels directly one particular scene or one particular chapter from Tides of Darkness. So that's a little bit easy once I get to that part. What is difficult is we dealt this somewhat with the last game. There were certain events that were definitely heralded in the game, and sometimes things came out of order. Well, that happens big time here. So there are huge chronological shufflings. My best example to you would be that in the beginning, early on in the second game, you rescue Zul'jin and the trolls become part of the Horde. That doesn't happen according to the official Chronicle lore for years into the war. There's other huge story beats that supposedly happen first. I mean, dragons, death knights, paladins, massive naval battles, all of those things happen in the Chronicle story long before the trolls join the Alliance. Now, it would make sense from a lore perspective why it would take so long for the trolls to join the Alliance. And that's why this is considered canon, this book that we're reading here. And this is like our Bible of what we're going through with this. But from a video game perspective, they obviously had to do things a different way. So it's forgivable. But what we're going to do, what's going to be our guiding thing here is when we get to any event in a game, we're going to make sure we've covered all lore that leads up to that. So if we have to read lore, for instance, we might have 10 or 15 different elements of the Tides of War game that are going to be discussed in this Chronicles book by the time we get to the trolls. So even though we're going to be reading about dragons and paladins and stuff, we are not going to go ahead and plow through in the game until we hit that point with the trolls. I'd rather follow this book and have none of it spoiled with the game that's not as technically canon spoiled. So that's how we're going to roll with it. That being said, we're starting this first section. We're still 4 years before the Dark Portal. We got to wrap up this year 4. It's called Arming the Horde. So obviously what would have to happen realistically, even though this is not really discussed that much in the game at all. In the game, it's portrayed as though the Horde is they just destroyed Stormwind and they're ready to roll. In the novel, it's maybe slightly more realistic, but this Chronicles is definitely the best, the most realistic, the most concise or logical story if you're going to apply logical to a fantasy universe. So stay a while and listen to Arming the Horde. As the dust of the First War settled, Orgrim Doomhammer mulled over the future of his people. He dreamed of a time when the orcs could return to their old traditions and ways, free from fell magic and the other corruptive influences that Gul'dan and Blackhand had introduced to the clans. Yet that dream would be long in coming. First, Orgrim would have to secure a home for the orcs on Azeroth. Conquering Stormwind was not enough. The other human nations would never make peace with the Horde, not after Stormwind's destruction. Even now, Doomhammer's scouts reported that there was a gathering of human nations in a northern land called Lordaeron, So they already have scouts poking around up there. So you could make an argument that the first episode is happening already. The first level. It's a compelling argument, but it's not going to be that big a deal if we hold off that first level. Orgrim knew that the Horde could not sit idle. If he and his people simply tried to defend their conquered territory, the human nations would muster the full might of their armies, march south, and eventually overrun the orcs. The only way for Orgrim to secure his race's survival was to strike first, before his enemies could fully prepare for war. After interrogating human prisoners taken from Stormwind, the orcs had learned that many powerful human nations existed in the north, but none compared to Lordaeron. It was the heart of human culture. If the Horde conquered its seat of power, capital city, Doomhammer believed the other kingdoms would fall in turn. But that was if the Horde conquered Lordaeron's capital. The war with Stormwind had depleted Doomhammer's army and sapped its resources. With only meager reinforcements coming from Draenor, the war chief sought other ways to strengthen the Horde. His followers scrambled to find new weapons. Blackrock orcs commandeered Stormwind's forges, but many of them were in ruins due to the fire that had raged through the city. The Dragonmaw orcs had discovered a strange and mighty artifact known as the Demon Soul, yet thus far they had not unlocked its potential. The clan's leader Zulahed had given the Demon Soul to his second-in-command Necros and tasked him with unraveling its secrets. Now I think also that's nods to the novel. I believe so. So I think they're pulling from the things they like from that novel too. The Horde had also befriended Azeroth's fearsome Amani trolls. They had a long and bitter history of conflict with humans, and they had rejoiced upon learning of Stormwind's destruction. The Amani saw the orcs as potential allies. Some of them indicated that they would join the Horde in exchange for Doomhammer's aid. The Amani ruler, Warlord Zul'jin, had been captured by humans and shackled in a prison town near the town of Hillsbrad. If the orcs helped them liberate Zul'jin, these trolls would agree to fight for the Horde. Then there was Gul'dan. Not long after Stormwind's fall, the disgraced warlock had stirred from his coma. The war chief had kept Gul'dan under watch, intending to execute him when he woke, yet when the time came to shed his blood, Orgrim stayed his hand. Gul'dan had an offer for his new master, a means to ensure the Horde's victory over the humans. So what we're getting is, because we've established geographically, the trolls are down there with them. So they're going to have them on the ships coming and helping them the second that they free Zul'jin. Now, that's, while it happens early in the game, that's a sticking point for us because in terms of Chronicles, it takes them years to finally be able to liberate Zul'jin. All right. We got more to plow forward. We got a lot more to cover as we lay the groundwork for this Tides of War. But this episode's in the pipes 5x5, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.